To the plains of western Kansas in April of 1876 came Volga Germans arriving from the Volga River region of Russia, where their ancestors had migrated a century before. Unhappy with the Tsar's military prescription and fearful of the Russian attitude toward their Catholic and Lutheran faiths, thousands left Russia in the late 1800s, searching for farmland and religious freedom in Canada, Argentina, and the United States. The first 23 families that arrived in Ellis County settled alongside the British settlement of Victoria and founded their own village named Herzog after their home in Russia. Staunch Catholics, their first place of worship was under open sky, where they gathered around a large wooden cross erected in the center of the village to sing religious hymns, pray their rosaries, and implore God's blessing on their lives in America. It was decided to attach to the Alois Dreiling home a 40 by 20 foot lean-to, thus the first church. Soon plans were made and work began on a permanent church. Soft limestone was acquired from a quarry about 8 miles to the northwest near the village of Cathedral. The church measured 60 by 30 and was dedicated to the Sorrowful Mother. From the humble beginning of 23 families, hundreds of families soon arrived from Russia, as well as from Germany, Poland, Austria, and Switzerland. Before long, a larger church was necessary, and in 1880, just 4 years after the first Volga German immigrants arrived, they began planning a new church. Built on land donated by the Kansas Pacific Railroad, the third church measured 155 by 45 feet and had a seating capacity of 600. At the dedication of the church, it was decided to change the name to St. Fidelis, in honor of Fidelis of Megmaringen, a German-born Capuchin martyred in Switzerland in 1622. The third church stood for 30 years, but with a steady influx of immigrants and the large families, a new and larger church was needed. It was not unusual for the German families to have 12 to 15 children, and although St. Fidelis had only 250 families, it was customary for almost everyone to attend certain services together. It was on the 3rd of July, 1904, that the parish, led by their Capuchin pastor, Father Jerome, made the decision to build an entirely new and larger church. Father Jerome was one of the Capuchin Franciscan friars from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, who agreed to work among the German-speaking immigrants of western Kansas. The friars themselves had come from Bavaria to Pennsylvania, and like the people they served, had endured great poverty and deprivation, had become part of the parcel of Christianity in the area. The quarrying of hard native limestone for the new church from a quarry about 7 miles south of Victoria began in late 1904. Families of the parish were assessed 6 wagon loads of stone and $45 for each family member, 12 years of age or older. It was not unusual for a father and his sons to haul as many as 70 to 80 wagon loads of limestone. With no machinery, it was hard work, all done by hand, and continued well into 1911. Dressing of the limestone began in January 11, 1905. Almost all of the work was done by parishioners who had become skilled craftsmen by the time the church was finished. A total of over 125,000 cubic yards of native limestone was used in the church. Actual construction was done by the EFA Clark Construction Company of Topeka. The parish's 4th church was to stand on the same spot as the old 3rd church, but occupy more than 3 times the space. It would be in the form of a cross, facing west, 220 feet long, 110 feet wide at the transepts, with a height of 44 feet from the floor to the ceiling, footing as much as 12 feet below ground level, and walls over 4 feet thick support the massive 141-foot-tall twin towers. In addition to native limestone, Indiana Bedford limestone was used for the ornamental doorways, steps, and for the bases and capitals of the 14 pillars of Vermont granite. 4 additional concrete pillars, faced with Vermont granite, support the solid stone sanctuary. All the capitals that adorn the pillars, except one, were hand-carved by one man on the church site, and each required 1 month to complete. After 7 years of planning and more than 3 years in building, St. Fidelis Church was ready to be dedicated. It not only dominated the village of small wooden and stone houses, but across wheat fields and prairies, its huge towers could be seen from all directions, uplifted like arms in prayer. Formal dedication and the first Mass was August 27, 1911. Since that day in 1911, thousands of people have visited St. Fidelis Church to draw a moment of peace and inspiration from its quiet dignity. Probably none left his mark more dramatically than did William Jennings Bryan, who, while visiting friends in Victoria in 1912, referred to the church as the Cathedral of the Plains, a name which it has kept to the present time. Perhaps what a visitor notices first about the church is the peculiar native limestone of which it is built. Easy to split and cut, it hardens in time and colors a soft dark yellow that beautifully reflects sunlight, changing hues with the different hours of the day. The pitched roof and the steeples are of wooden trusses and crossbeams. Shingles are made of slate. The people worship in keeping with ancient practice, facing east, where the sanctuary rises 2.5 feet above the church floor. In the middle of the sanctuary stands the altar upon which Mass is celebrated, with its pulpit to the left. These magnificent matching pieces were cut and hand-polished in Italy. Both consist of dark pillars resting on a base of fine white Carrara marble and supporting the arches which supports the top, also of Carrara marble. The pulpit was a gift from a native son, Monsignor Michael Dryling, and the altar was a gift from the people of the occasion of the 75th Jubilee of the church. Behind the altar of sacrifice is an elaborate and intricately carved wooden reredos. High in the center of the reredos is encased an oil painting of the martyrdom of St. Fidelis. A gold-colored tabernacle located in the center of the reredos houses the Holy Eucharist. The real presence of Christ is indicated by a gold veil covering the tabernacle and by the large lamp hanging in the sanctuary. Its light burns perpetually every day of the year except Good Friday and Holy Saturday. 4 shrines are located in the front of the church, 2 on either side of the sanctuary, and like the reredos, they are of wood painted to resemble marble. Separating the sanctuary from the rest of the church is a communion railing, rare in Catholic churches today. It's also made of wood marbleized with paint. When the church was completed in 1911, the windows were uncolored glass, but the people always considered their church unfinished until it was enhanced with stained glass. In 1915, the Munich Art Glass Company was asked to design and install the windows in St. Fidelis. These windows, 21 major stained glass works of art depicting the life of Christ and the saints, and 23 lesser windows were installed in 1916. They are considered the outstanding windows of their type in the United States, with only a few cathedrals in Europe having superior colored glass windows. The Stations of the Cross stand out as extraordinary works of art as well. Hand-carved in the Austrian Tyrol during the early part of the century, the ornate frames retain the natural color and texture of linden wood, while the figures are hand-painted in delicate colors. The bells that summoned the faithful to church for services since 1884 were installed in the South Church Tower in 1911. These bells harmonize beautifully, and when atmospheric conditions are right, can be heard for many miles. Rung in unison, individually, or as a toll for funerals, they are rung each day at 6 a.m., midday, and at 6 p.m. When our German ancestors planned and built this fourth church, they may have recounted the words of the influential English art critic of the 1800s. When we build, let us think that we build forever. Let it not be for present delight, nor for present use alone. Let it be such work as descendants will thank us for, and let us think as we lay stone on stone that a time is to come when these stones will be held sacred because our hands have touched them, and that men will say as they look upon the labor and wrought substances of them, "See, this our fathers did for us."